just women are in danger, but all marginalized people, where being uniquely different right now might truly be considered a crime. It seems as though we had all slipped into a false sense of comfort, that justice would prevail and that good would win in the end. Well, good did not win this election, but good will win in the end. So what today means is that we are far from the end. Today marks the beginning of our story. The revolution starts here. The fight for the right to be free, to be who we are, to be equal. Let's march together through this darkness, and with each step, know that we are not afraid. That we are not alone. That we will not back down. That there is power in our unity, and that no opposing force stands a chance in the face of true solidarity. And to our detractors that insist that this march will never add up to anything,
Boston Red here with Friday Java, a weekly magazine of political theory, polling, and commentary. It is part of the history called people that make up this fascinating journey. We are part of the Obama network. For that, we make no apologies. What we pledge to do is give you the facts on a bridge to history, what body politics is, the most up-to-date theories of political science and psephology. Stay tuned for this incredible ride. Boston Red, peace out. Friday Java on the 5th of October 2017 from WBRN Radio and on the Boston Red Network. We roll along as we are basically about a month out from the 2018 midterm election, given a little bit of change here, and a number of things are swirling around. As I say, we'll have the people from the University of Virginia, the Crystal Ball, that's Larry Sabato's shop, and we always, when we do the Crystal Ball, we remember Heber Heyer. Incidentally, some white supremacists from California were indicted and awaiting expedition back to the Commonwealth of Virginia. Justice sometimes rolls slowly, but it does roll in some instances here. We'll look at Trump and his latest moves in some of the Republican districts, particularly in upper income areas like in New Jersey, that don't exactly want Trump around. And we'll look at some of the class divides there. And we'll start this report off on the presidential campaign in Brazil. Some would say, well, why are you doing that? Well, there's a candidate in Brazil, a right-winger, Bolsonaro. He's leading there, running a populist pitch. This is from São Paulo. This is from the Washington Post. And Marianne Lopez. Anyway, Brazil, for many years, revered in its image as a post-racial, left-leaning society. Now, Jair Bolsonaro, a right-wing outsider who says he loves DJ Trump has surged to the front of the pack in Sunday's presidential elections, sharply dividing the largest country in so-called Latin America. To tackle runaway crime, this is one of the typical things. Should gun down more criminals. He called upon that a law and order campaign. A gay son as a result of a lack of beatings he once quipped, and insisting that homosexuality should not be discussed in elementary schools. I guess you can discuss it in high schools. He once said that women, because they get pregnant, deserve less pay than men. He's called some minorities fat and lazy. Like Trump, he has embraced social media to reach legions of loyal followers. His rallies have become outlets for so-called white men or European men rattled by social and economic change. He vowed to drain the swamp and make Brazil great again. It's going to be beautiful. You heard those words before. That is from his son, Eduardo Barcelos. While envisioning his father's presidency, it was at a rally, just like Trump. This nation of 208 million goes to the polls, of course, on Sunday. It's Brazil is polarized. The economy is floundering. Huge swaths of the political class tainted by corruption. The homicide rate has risen to epidemic heights. This Barcelos is 63 years old and has advanced a Brazilian first campaign that attacks the traditional press, Imprensa, while gobbling up headlines with tough talk, his own set of so-called alternative facts, in other words, lies. His popularity, some say, reflects the globalization of anti-globalists and the rise of Western candidates who seek to exploit racial and social fault lines. In Europe and the U.S., far-right and popular so-called populist movements have aimed their anger at immigrants and quote-unquote minorities. In Brazil, the mostly European upper class have felt threatened by a large number of Afro-Brazil lower middle class whose incomes have shot up faster than that of the wealthy segment of society during more than a decade of the Workers' Party under Mr. Lula. During these years, affirmative action-like programs sent many African Brazilians to college for the first time. With the economy languishing, however, all segments of society are hurting, and Barroso impassioned speeches are touching a new nerve. His rallies attract not only ultra-conservatives in camouflage pants and T-shirts with skulls, but also angry professionals who feel they've lost ground. Today, if you're a European heterosexual man of means, you must be punished. That is from Marco Ferrezzo. He is a doctor who attended one of Barcelos' rallies on Sunday. We don't have a social debt to Africans. We need to be responsible for ourselves. Now, what this is, and I've read a number of people that have written about it and written around it, including the economist, one of the economists that appears in the New York Times, and various other people, their commentary on why people voted for DJ Trump, period. But yet, much like Trump in 2016, Barcelos is winning support from many voters who are turning to him despite his words on people of color and women, not because of them. His pledge to crack down on crime and political corruption, prevents a return of the leftist government, are resounding with millions who see him as the last best chance for law and order. That was a man named Schickengruber in Germany that did that also. He's managed to portray himself as an outsider, despite his... Now, this is the difference between he and DJ Trump. 27 years as a lawmaker in the Congress there. Massaro in recent months has sought to tone down his most controversial rhetoric. Now he's praising cultural diversity in a tweet. He's on social media also. Softened his stance on gender inequality and what analysts say is his attempt to increase his electability. DJ Trump didn't exactly do that because he did not need to. Now, this is a different situation in Brazil. Brazil came out in the 80s out of a dictatorship by the military. And they had 12 years of the Workers' Party, a Socialist Party, a People's Party in Brazil under Lula, and had much prosperity. But the changing conditions of capitalism, and this is where things get a bit dicey. Paul Klingman, who the guy was thinking of here, The Economist, wrote about various factions that support DJ Trump. But what he did not talk about, and it's very clear here in Vasaro appeal, is a class appeal. The wealthy doctors, the wealthy within the country. Now, under DJ Trump, depending on what you want to call wealthy, they have gotten richer. But now if you're talking about some people, and the societies are a bit different. I can recall in the late 80s, early around 1990, we did some quote-unquote business at Cranston with smaller merchants in Brazil. And the whole idea there was a working class. Now, this came after the military dictatorship left town, so to speak. But it is a mixed bag, and the U.S. had not had a dictatorship. So it is a different situation. And also, when you talk about the African component in Brazil, is much, much larger proportion to the population there than Africans in the U.S., where you have around 15%, 20%, depending on how you measure them. It's much more in Brazil. And also the way that they look, quote-unquote, at race is looked at differently. Different historical situations in Brazil, but however, slavery ended there after it ended here. So there are some things going on there, but the language there, of course, is Portuguese. And the colonial situation there is different. You have indigenous people also. But you still have the legacy of Europeans, what you want to call Europeans, still running the show, basically speaking, as in many of the emerging markets, etc. Period. And another quote, he's not the savior of the country, but to beat the communists in the Workers' Party, he is the best option. That is from somebody called Manto. He's an African 30-year-old physical education teacher who attended one of his rallies. Now, you have that situation if he's looking at something. He's a physical education teacher as the communist. Now, this is a class-based situation. This guy, Tadeo Manto, is identifying with the classes. Now, Viceros' similarities with Trump are conscious and deliberate, no doubt about that. And from Ketseras, and I mispronounced his name. Anyway, nonetheless, he's a professor in comparative politics at the Vega Foundation in the University of São Paulo. 5 years ago, he was just another congressman with anti-gay views. Now, this is very similar to G.J. Trump and his birther movement. Now, like Trump, he has become a larger-than-life figure. And that's only because the monopoly media in Brazil has made him that. Vassouros uses a well-crafted rhetoric. His slogan, Brazil before everything, and God above all. He has been reached out to different groups of voters who feel abandoned by the political class. They are blind to the negative things he says. It's sort of like the evangelicals and various Trump supporters. He's embraced the politics of fear, demoralized his opponents on the left as corrupt, inept radicals, his foes on the right as centrists unable to strongly represent the conservative cause. And to throw it in, he has conspiracy theories. If he loses, the election would have been stolen from him. He talks of bringing back family values that have been music to the ears of conservative Catholics. Now, they're also in this bailiwick. They don't have the evangelicals as a factor in Brazil. Like Trump, Vassouros was initially underestimated by quote-unquote the pundits. They, of course, aren't laughing now. He's lavished praise on the 21-year right-wing military dictatorship that ruled Brazil till 1985. If he wins and finds himself unable to cobble together a majority in Congress, some observers fear that he could reach to the military. A new poll, this is from the Data Fahara, I think, hopefully I'm pronouncing that right, shows Vassouros with 39% of the vote compared to Fernando Haddad, the candidate representing the Workers' Party. Mr. Lula could not run from prison in the Brazil electoral system. A candidate needs a 50% of the vote, and there are 13 people running, and of course that will set up a runoff on October 28th. Be very leery of those runoff operations. Haddad's problem is his role as a stand-in, of course, for Lula da Silva. He's widely known here and was barred, of course, from running. Haddad has met with investment bankers and is considered more moderate than many members of his party. With his slogan, Lula is Haddad, the chances of Vassouros' victory, meanwhile, are stoking fears among quote-unquote liberals. Now, the liberals here, I am assuming, are social democrats, and if someone could make a commentary on this, we'd appreciate it. Various celebrities, Madonna there, and Cher, and have denounced the Vassouros in Brazil social media. Many here argue that Vassouros' rhetoric, embracing others to use hate speech, incendiary rhetoric. I mean, and that bringing racism and homophobia into mainstream dialogue. On Saturday, Cesar Augusto da Silva, he's 28 years old. He's an African illustrator in São Paulo, attended a rally with a sign around his neck read, "Beware, Vassouros kills gays," a reference to the homophobia. But not only that, at many of his rallies, and we'll finish this up, you see American flags there. So I would sense, perhaps, that there are consultants from the states that are in his campaign. And we'll go to the people at the University of Virginia. But one of the interesting things here that you see social media, but beyond social media, there's a visual component, a very strong visual component. And what happens there is that people see images, but they're not necessarily able to discern what the images are. It's sort of like the popcorn at the cinema. That was an old one. would force people to be thirsty and buy, they didn't have bottled water in those days, Cokes or sodas or tonic or whatever you want to call it. That was one of the subliminal, they call it. Well, when you have people that literally read very little, or they read things that can be read in 2 or 3 minutes, the articles are not very thorough. In our program, from the Numbers Man segment of the Boston Red Network, we try to get beyond that and present a much fuller picture. But part of the problem is with these various things in digital media, we'll call it, or as the cause calls it, the cause radio. It is internet radio, but many of the things that appear on the so-called podcast have been dumbed down to the point they're about 3 minutes. It's very difficult to explain someone like this candidate here in 2 or 3 Baceros in 2 or 3 minutes. Period. We've spent a little longer than that just going over his comparison with DJ Trump. But by doing that, we outline the essence of the campaign. And back to Paul Klingman and these various actors, a little bit different obviously in the U.S. than in Brasilia. But the point is that if you look at this, it's a class struggle situation, are people that identify with the class. Let's go to the University of Virginia, and this is from the managing editor, Kyle Klondike, on the 4th of October. We're on the 5th today. Rating changes, House, Senate, and governors. Before we begin this week, we just want to acknowledge our friend Godfrey Skelly, a longtime Crystal Ball associate editor. Godfrey started a new position this week. Oh, he's moved to the 538. For nearly 7 years, Godfrey was an exceptionally valuable member of our team, and we will, of course, miss him. That is from Dr. Sabato, Klondike, etc. Key points here, there are a lot of questions and not many answers. Whether Brett Kavanaugh's confirmation saga will impact the November election. And we'll go to some Fox polling here, and we'll look at some current polling from Real Clear Politics. 5 gubernatorial ratings changed. Changes that go in different directions, but are generally better for quote-unquote Democrats. Only one change in the Senate is a battle for the chamber remains somewhat status. Yeah. Anyway, when we look at these are House ratings. Some of the districts here, Connecticut 5 has moved to safe Democrat. That was Estee. It's an old seat. It's an open seat now. Bob Woodall, that is in Georgia 7, leans Republican from likely Republican. Kevin Yoder, that is in Kansas 3, from a toss-up to lean Democrat. Jason Lewis in Minnesota 2 to lean Democrat there. Ms. Craig, who we support. And in Jersey Open, safe Democrat from likely Democrat there. Mike Kelly, he's in Pennsylvania 16, leans Republican there. And Scott Perry, Pennsylvania 10, leans Republican there. It was likely Republican. Another open seat, Costello, that is in Pennsylvania 6, safe Democrat there. Pete Sessions, he's in Texas, a toss-up, been around for a very long time. And Bruton, he's in Texas 6, likely Republican. They moved it from safe Republican. The gubernatorial ratings here, Ducey in Arizona, likely Republican, lean Republican, likely Republican there. He's way ahead. Malloy in Connecticut, leans Democrat, moved there from a toss-up. Georgia Open, that is Dill, any governor there. toss-up. Could do a runoff. There's a Libertarian candidate there, Ms. Abrams there, and the Secretary of State in Georgia. Tom Wolf, he's in Pennsylvania, safe Democrat there. That is an open seat in Tennessee. Safe Republican from Lean Republican there. That's Hassan, gubernatorial candidate there. Debbie Strabano from likely Democrat to Safe. That's in Michigan. She is there. What they call the Kavanaugh curveball. We enter the final month of the campaign. The political world remains fixated on the embattled Supreme Court justice there. Well, there's a very interesting situation going there. Quinnipiac poll found identical pluralities who say they do not want Kavanaugh, 48% against 42%. Found almost identical pluralities who say they do not want Kavanaugh confirmed, 48% against 42%. Well, that is a toss-up. The right wing in the Republican Party, traditional Republican Party, and the Trump people are behind Kavanaugh. And from the Fox polling, we've looked at various races. No doubt that's energized that particular base. Now the question is here, when you go into Florida, specifically, the race has gotten much closer between Mr. Gillum and DeSantis. There, it was he was out by 8 or 9 points at one time. It's down now to 1 or 2 or 3 points, the margin of error. That's going to be a turnout election in Florida. And skipping a little bit here, in North Dakota, we'll bring this in. That's Heidi Handicap. Camp out in North Dakota. She has come out and said she will not vote for Kavanaugh. She is, depending, I guess, on the polls, she's either 10 or 12 percentage points behind. She decided that she would not disrespect women by going along with the Republican majority. The only senator that's held out is Meacham, and he's in West Virginia. We'll see how that turns out. And we'll see which way that goes. On we go here. The environment remains treacherous for Republicans, as they say. The numbers of DJ Trumps are in the lower to mid 40s in general. Not a bad problem in itself. Barack Obama was in the mid 40s and, of course, is reelected. In other words, we don't envy the headline writers who have to partially sum up the results of the election when hypothetically Democrats could net 35 or so seats and half a dozen governorships. Well, maybe not. Period. Now, for instance, the CLF recently pulled advertising of money from races. That would be Mike Kaufman. He's in Colorado 6. Mike Bishop in Michigan 8. Both occupy suburban districts with above average numbers of residents with 4-year degrees. They're not going over very well. Both face Democratic opponents. Veteran Jason Crow, Colorado 6, and former Obama defense official Elser Stocking. Some outraised incumbents, not unusual there. The committee cut off Representative Kevin Yoder. He's in Kansas 3, who faces an attorney Davis in that particular one. So some of them they're pulling out, but that's not unusual. I assume probably if the polls continue, the Democratic organizations will pull out of North Dakota as far as highly handicapped, handicap is concerned there. And I mispronounced the name, which I usually pronounce. Anyway, those include moving the aforementioned victims, Kevin Yoder from Kansas Free and toss-up leans Democrat for Davis. One other House Republican we're moving to lean Democrat from toss-up. That's Jason Lewis, the talk show host in Minnesota, is running against Craig. Craig ran against him the last time. But the political environment has changed, moving from lean Republican to toss-up, 2 more House seats. Ted Budd is in North Carolina, 3 in Pete Sessions. We'll run over that. We won't go back again. And we'll move on down here. There's a bunch of toss-ups here for the Republicans. Denham, that's California 10. Knight, California 25. That's a toss-up there. Rockenbacher, California 48. Mimi Waters, she comes up quite a bit. She's ran close races. California 5, open seat for Royce. David Young in Iowa 3. Mike Booth, that's Illinois 12. Pete Rankin, I suppose that's Illinois 6. There's an open seat. Jenkins, Andy Barr, Kentucky 6. Bruce Paulquist in Michigan 2. Mike Bishop in Michigan 8. Buds in North Carolina. And Leon Lance, now he's in Jersey 7. He's one that dissed himself from DJ Trump. Tom McCarthy, he's in Jersey 3. A lot of these characters are toast. Claudine Tierney, New York 22. Won't get all these in. And Pete Sessions in Texas. And some lean Republican, likely Republicans, Don Young out in Alaska. Well, he's been around for a long time. And some Democratic toss-ups, and that was where DJ Trump was. Minnesota 1, Walls is a toss-up, and also Nolan, that is in northern Minnesota. That is an open seat. Leans Democrat has another open seat that McSally had. Another open seat, California 49, that was Darrell Issa, he retired. Kaufman, Colorado 6. Kevin Yoder, that's Kansas 3. Lewis, we already talked about. Minnesota 2, Minnesota 3. Paulson. And Cartwright, PA 8. Comstock in Virginia 10. She's trying to be more in the unions there. O'Halloran, that is Arizona 1. That's like a Democrat there. Ari Barra, California 7. Murphy, Peterson, likely Democrat there. He's in Minnesota. And Maloney, that is in New York 18. In some of these states that are up here, Oregon, Minnesota, these have gubernatorial contests. And let's see what else we've got here. These are some like. Anyway, we finished this up. Let me go now to. We're down Brazil. We start out Brazil, and this is from Reuters. And Leon Lance, he's one avoiding Trump. This is from Reuters. And just some of those, we'll just sort of skim over this. Some disenfranchised Republicans take issue with Trump's policies, particularly on immigration, the environment, and relations with the Russian Federation. Amongst the, 56 House battleground districts, the Republican nominees in 19, more than a third, have offered no support for Trump. Trend is particularly profound in 10 of the wealthiest battleground districts. Just 4 of the Republican candidates in those districts have supported Trump. In a 10 battleground with the lowest medium incomes, 8 of the Republican candidates have expressed support for him. It's kind of closer to the Brazil situation there. Some class machinations going on. He's campaigned, this is DJ Trump, in support of a dozen candidates since early August. In a memo, the White House political director, Bill Stepien, I suppose how you pronounce that, warned that Republican candidates who don't embrace the president want to capitalize on the zeal he generates amongst people who like the direction of the country. We'll no doubt about that. But the problem with those people, they will go along to get along. And we won't go into some of those. There's nothing presidential about him. That is Gary. He's the mayor of Alexandria, a small township in the district. Anyway, I'm not sure where all that is going on to. We'll finish this one up. The tightrope act with DJ Trump. The biggest threat is at 14% in that Republican demographic who, like Wentz in Illinois, said they will back a Democrat or a third-party candidate. So a lot of those things going on here. Another Reuters article here. This is, incidentally, the Senate will start the process of confirming a Kavanaugh and supposedly will finish it off. The ugly partisan brawl, this again is Reuters, over the nominee Kavanaugh remains undecided, but Trump appears likely to come out regardless of the outcome. Well, on top of the thing. Well, anyway, if Kavanaugh is confirmed, the Senate plans a vote on Saturday. Trump will succeed in placing his second justice on the court and fulfilling his pledge to solidify a conservative majority. Even if Kavanaugh is rejected, the battle to save the nomination in the face of sexual misconduct will energize the base. This has more to wake up the complacency of Republican candidates than anything else. This is the Tafara group, a Republican-leaning consultancy. Ian goes on to talk about his style, his pernicious style. Anyway, the newfound enthusiasm which Republican strategists say they are seeing around the country is boosts Republicans in close elections in Florida and North Dakota, Missouri, our own McCassell down there. Not so much Montana, Indiana, Tennessee, Texas, and West Virginia. Now, those are states carried by DJ Trump. Montana, I would leave out of that. Republicans need to retain control in Congress. In the past week, West Virginia, Tennessee, and Mississippi, Trump plays it. Well, Mississippi, I haven't looked at anything out of Mississippi lately. I will fight for the Supreme Court, the last line of defense for our values. That is for Hockley in Missouri. And basically what's happening is these Republicans are wrapping themselves up in it. Republican candidates in Missouri and Montana made the Supreme Court fight part of their campaign. It will be over soon, and the only question is how much impact it will have. John Tester has been in a pretty good shape out in Montana. Now, let me go to some polling here. This is the latest on Friday here. This is the Berkeley poll here. This is basically out of California. Harder up by 5. Nunez up by 8. And that's California 22. Hills up by 4. That's California 25 overnight. California 39. Cisneros up by just 1 over Kim. Porter up by 7 in California 25. These are all California districts here. Very important, though, however, Rockenbacher and Ronder are up. I hope I'm pronouncing it. Tied. Rockenbacher has been around a long time. That's California 48. California 49. Levine's up by 16. Now that's gone there. And on Thursday, now this is out of Florida, Mason Dixon there had Senator Nelson up by 1. Fox News in Tennessee. Blackman up by 5 in Indiana. This is the Senate race there. Donnelly's up by 2. He's up by 2 to 5. In Missouri, this is Fox News again. Hockley and McCaskill have been tied. This will be a turnout election. That'd be very interesting. Now, Kramer, he's out there. Heidi Camp is down by 12 points there in North Dakota. In Arizona, Simmer is up by 2. There's Debbie Stabenow in Michigan's up by 18. Let's see. The Arizona governor has Ducey up by 18 over Garcia. 55 to... Where's Garcia? Had him here in a minute. Anyway, Whitmire is up over Scholte. That is in Michigan, up by 12. And let's see what else we have here. Kirkpatrick, that is in Arizona, 11. This is a New York Times Center poll. They're doing a very good job there. And in Minnesota, the 2nd District, they have Craig up by 12. She's been up in various polls. Let's see. Waxton is up by 7. That is in Virginia over Comstock. Buchanan up by 9. That's in Florida, 16. And then the Rasmus has a DJ Trump at 50. Don't believe it. The Independent Business Daily, when we look at them, he's at 40% there. They're a very good poll there, and a disapproval by 1454. He was down in their last poll. The generic poll has the Democrats up by 2, something of concern there. And we probably have to come back to this. Trump GOP get a big Kavanaugh bounce. Democrats all-out attack on Kavanaugh, which culminated in a blistering partisan hearing on Thursday, has backfired on the party just before the election. The Independent Business Daily poll finds that approval rating made a strong rebound with 4 points. I guess he was at 36, now he's at 40. With the Democrats' advantage on the generic ballot has plunged from 11 points to just 2. This is very important here. The galvanized Republicans who saw the proceeding as a ploy by the Democrats to slow the nomination process down. There's Technomatics, Marketing Intelligence there. Mr. Mayu, I suppose, Miro. Anyway, which conducted the poll. Many Republicans thought that Kavanaugh's reputation was being maligned. A driving force behind the approval rating jump was the fact that Republican support came roaring back. The October poll that 84% of Republicans say they approved of Trump's job. That's 8-point jump from last month. It was 76% support amongst independents, and Democrats remains at 33 and 5%. Regionally, Trump's biggest gains from rural America, that's where he's been. His approval rating climbed to 59% compared with 45% last month. He made gains among those with high school educations, 54% of which back him now, compared with 42% last month.
Amongst those at lower end of economic spectrum, his approval rating climbed 13 points to 38% amongst adults with household incomes below $30,000. Perhaps also reflecting the fallout from the drama that's of Kavanaugh, support amongst men jumped 9%. That could be expected to 49%. His net favorables improved somewhat this month as well, although it's well in the negative there. Went from 19 last month to at 36 favorable, 55 unfavorable to 38 favorable, unfavorable there. The broader poll, the president's leadership index gained a 7% to 42.1. This is from the Independent Business Daily. That's higher than the 41.3 for this index, which includes questions regarding leadership, etc. Approval rating boost from economy, another factor there. The poll found that 46% approve of handling of the economy. That's up a point from last month. The financial stress index dropped from 5.7% to 48.4%. A lower number means less stress. That's the second lowest reading for this index since it's been tracking it in 2007. The share of the public that thinks the economy is improving climbed to 56% in October from 53%. This is a very valuable update here. The economy is facing, is firing on all four cylinders. Wages are picking up in a tight labor market. More people who were on the fence are finally starting to give Trump some credit for the booming economy. Meanwhile, Democrats' advantage on the generic ballot questions has all but disappeared. This asked only registered voters whether they prefer Congress controlled by Democrats or Republicans after the midterm election. The latest poll showed 45% said they prefer the Democrats in control, 43% the Republicans. This is a huge swing from last month when Democrats were up 11 points. Not surprising, Republicans have grown more enthusiastic about keeping control. Support for GOP Congress amongst registered Republicans climbed from 86%, 6% to 92%. Let me finish this up. But independents shift towards Republicans as well, with 37% backing GOP. That's up 7 points from 30% support amongst independents for Democrat. Congress dropped from 49 last month to 41. The poll did find that Democrats have a slight advantage when it comes to enthusiasm about the election. 83% say they are extremely interested in the midterm, compared with 74% of the Republicans. We'll continue to follow this. The methodology here, this was from the 27th of September to the 3rd of October. It included a response from 905 adults nationwide who were asked questions by live interviews. The margin of error is 3.3%. Generic ballot questions included responses from 849. The Independent Business Daily TIPPoll has been credited as being one of the most accurate in the past 4 presidential elections, and was only 2 that correctly identified the outcome in 2016. We'll append this to some of our broadcasts. This is basically where we end up here. Let me go now to, we don't have very much to report here from ESPN, but the playoffs in Milwaukee and out in Los Angeles, pretty much, I would say, as predicted here. Let's go. And those contests go on tonight. Incidentally, the Rockies were in Milwaukee playing the Brewers, a 3-2 game there in 10, a struggle. The Rockies had 2 runs, 4 hits, no errors, and the Brewers had 3 runs, 7 hits, and 1 error. there. The other contest was Atlanta out in Los Angeles. The Dodgers shut them out 6-0. The line score was Atlanta had actually 6 hits, sorry about that, in 1 error, and the Dodgers 5 hits and 1 error there. Mr. Reu was the winner of that contest. So that is how the playoffs are shaping up. They'll play the second round tonight in Milwaukee and in Los Angeles, and then it will ship to Denver, and the Rockies will be back on Sunday, I believe it is. Look at the schedule here. Let me see. Yeah. Well, no, this is actually American League. We'll have Cleveland and the Astros on, let's see, this is Saturday. Yeah. And anything else? Yankees and Red Sox. Yankees won the wild card game. That will be played in Boston at Fenway Park. That'll be on Saturday. And then on Sunday, we'll have the Brewers will be at the Rockies in Denver. The Dodgers will be in Atlanta. That'll be the 8 o'clock Eastern Time game. The 4:30 game has to be an afternoon game out of Denver, Colorado. Anyway, that is Major League Baseball. That will do it for us. We'll go out. We came in with Madonna. We'll go out with Mr. Willie Nelson, Vote 'em All Out. And we'll be looking at more polling on the week that was from the Boston Red Network. We'll also have Numbers Man from the Boston Red Network this week in economics. And the open source report is almost finished. Hopefully we'll get that out in the next few days. Have a good weekend, everyone. We'll talk to you on Saturday morning.
Take it home where you spread it around. If you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. That's what election day is all about. And the biggest gun we got is called the ballot box. If you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. Vote 'em out. Vote 'em out. And when they're gone, we'll sing and dance and shout. And she'll bring some new ones in, and they will start the show again. And if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. It's a bunch of clowns you voted in. Election day is coming round again. And if you don't like it now, you can change it anyhow. And if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. 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 And when they're gone, we'll sing and dance and shout. We'll start the show again and bring some new ones in. And if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. Vote 'em out. Vote 'em out. And when we're done, we'll sing and dance and shout. Then we'll bring some new ones in, and we'll start the show again. But if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. And if you don't like who's in there, vote 'em out. Thank you, Austin. Thank you, Texas. Thank you, Beto. All the way, buddy. We love y'all. Thank you.